Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and Happy New Year to all of you. Very excited to kick off my reviews for 2019. Starting off with a film that I purposely left to review until now because it just seemed fitting, and that is I would say monthly, but it came out in December, so it's not a monthly installment, but it is the latest installment of Into the Dark. That, of course, being New Year, New You. And what New Year, New You is essentially about is we center on this group of friends, and these are people who they were friends in high school, but they very much drifted apart, and our main lead here, the Suki Waterhouse's character, she is someone who just feels very sort of directionless in her life, and she just doesn't really seem to have much of a purpose, and, she's meeting up with her former best friends, and they all come together, for New Year's Eve, and what it first starts as a fun night of them kind of just reminiscing about things that they enjoyed within high school quickly turns into this crazy night of revelations, and the four of them start to realize why they've drifted apart, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Into the Dark, New Year, New You, I was hyped for this installment, more than I've been for any other previous installment of this anthology series so far, and that's mainly because of Puka. I mean, you guys know how much I loved their previous installment. I just thought it was so creative and different, and it just really explored the possibilities and pushed the grounds of this concept in a way that I didn't think they'd be able to do, and coming off the heels of that, I was really excited to see how this would turn out. I thought there were so many opportunities to go into, to find ways to do very unconventional type horror, and while at first I did get that here, I have to say, overall, I was extremely disappointed by this installment. This is easily the weakest of the Into the Dark episodes or movies or whatever you want to call them that I have seen yet. I really did not feel that satisfaction, and we're just getting into right now, starting off with the cast. Now, I will say, there are a lot of problems with this one, but the cast is not one of them. Everyone really does do a pretty great job here. Let's first talk about our lead, Suki Waterhouse, who, I saw her in Assassination Nation, and she didn't really leave much of an impression on me. I thought that she was just kind of there, and I didn't really feel much from her, mainly because they didn't really give her a lot to do. Here, on the other hand, I loved her work here. Her character, Alexis, is very interesting because out of all the girls, she's the one who has easily had the most uneventful life possible. She just doesn't really have a lot going on. She babysits, and that's kind of it, and her character is very intriguing. Where she ends up going, I thought she definitely did a very good job, and even in spots where this character wasn't really working, I thought she did a very good job with bringing, just this sense of realism to it. You really can see what she's going through. You understand her sort of, her sort of indifference to what her friends are doing, but also how sort of, sort of how jealous she is of them. You realize that she wants to have that better life, and I thought overall she definitely did do a really good job here. I thought she definitely gave a very strong performance, and I am looking forward to seeing what she does do in the future, because like I said, she really did impress me here. However, for me, the stand-up performance of this entire thing is Carly Chaikin as Danielle, who, I mean, obviously, seeing her in Mr. Robot, I already knew the type of talent she had, but she did a really great job here, and her character, Danielle, she could have come off really annoying and over the top, because she's the one who's the most successful. She has this very successful, sort of, blogging show that she does about, beauty tips and things like that, and it's gotten her a really big sort of following, and I thought overall Chaikin did a very good job with showing that this is a character that, sure, she's someone who's a big personality, and there definitely are some really weird directions this character goes into, but again, Chaikin did a good job of keeping this character grounded and making her feel like a real person, and easily the best part of this entire thing is actually the chemistry between her and Suki Waterhouse. These two have a very interesting relationship. The back and forth between them I found extremely compelling. I really liked where they ended up going, with these two at first. I'll get to my problems with that a little bit later, but I thought the two of them both did a very good job, and I was definitely very impressed by their work here. And the other two girls here, Kirby Howell-Baptiste and Melissa Bergland, they both do a really good job. They don't really have a ton to do. Like, it really is focused on those two girls. The other two, Kirby Howell-Baptiste's character is someone who is a lesbian, and she is this girlfriend that she sometimes calls into, and that's really all there is to her. And then the other one is overweight, and you can tell that she's trying to do something about it, and that's kind of all there is there. But again, the chemistry between these four girls does feel very natural. They do work very well together, and I thought all four of them were very well casted here. Now we get to my biggest problem with this, which is easily the directing and the writing. Now, the directing by Sophia Takal, I'm going to be saying this a lot, but the way this started out, I actually really like. She takes her time with a lot of what's going on. For a while, this is very much just kind of a thriller where you're just kind of creeping in on the lives of these four girls, and you know something bad is going to happen. Like I said, her style is very specific, and I think it does work to an extent here. Like, I like how slowly she sort of unravels things, and I definitely think she did a good job with that. It's when she leans more into the more horror aspects of this that this really fell apart for me. As a thriller, this works really well. As a horror movie, though, this does not work. Nothing about it is remotely scary. There definitely are some things that definitely give you a bit tension, but when she goes into more horror directions, which it really does do in, like, the second half, I'll get to that in a little bit, but I really did not think it worked as well as it could here. I really was not a fan of where they end up going with it, and I thought her style, while it worked, it just did not really work for, you know, the second half. Like, the first half, it worked really well, but where it eventually ends up going, it just did not really work for me, and that's really the same thing with the screenplay, which is very disappointing, because, again, it started out so well. I mean, the way this starts out, it's very slow in its execution. It's showing these four girls. We see how Alexis and sort of her plight, and how you know something bad is going to happen. There's always this sense of just there's always this sense of this unnerving sense that something terrible is going to happen to these characters, and they do a good job planting the seeds there. And when they meet up, the best part of this, I think, is when they really are kind of reflecting on each other's lives. They each have very different lives that have turned out for better or worse, and you see Alexis as someone who doesn't really have much to say because she doesn't really know what she wants to do. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a career goal, and that's something that she's very much you know, you can tell that she's very annoyed by. She wants to do something about it, but she can't really do anything about it. And I definitely thought that whole setup was really interesting. There's some really interesting stuff we set up with Danielle and their relationship, and these two, you know, these two used to be best friends, and they're acting like best friends at first, but they clearly have some sort of animosity between each other, and that's really when we get to my biggest flaw with this entire thing, is the reasoning for why these four women start to turn against each other and why this whole sort of conflict starts just was not very strong to me. Now, I'm going to give a comparison here, so, you know, maybe you don't want to hear the rest of this, but it's basically Unfriended. Like, if you've seen Unfriended and you know the conflict that unravels, it's very similar to that. And look, in Unfriended, it worked with the kind of story they were trying to tell. Admittedly, looking back, it wasn't very well done, but the sort of message they were trying to tell, it definitely worked for that story. Here, on the other hand, this conflict, while interesting, and definitely could have been, I think, a very interesting look, it just did not work for this kind of story. It didn't feel like this is the thing that should have driven them apart. It just did not really work for me. The whole idea is like, the whole thing involves this outsider that we never really met or have any connection to, and I think there was definitely a missed opportunity here. I think they could have done a much better job at fleshing certain things out. And once we go from there, this entire thing just turns into a traditional horror thing where, oh, now they're trying to kill each other and things like that, and they're doing all these outrageous things, and it just felt like a completely different type of movie. Like, the first half of it was so well done and very dialogue driven, had a lot of interesting setup to it, and here it just did not work, and I was definitely very let down by it, and I think they could have done a much better job of that, particularly with the character of Danielle. I mean, after a certain point, she just turns into a cartoon. Like, she's really just a cartoon here. Same with Alexis, you really can't take either of them seriously, and it just gets really dumb, and I think, again, it was just such a wasted opportunity because there is a really good message here. The main sort of message that the film is trying to do, sure, it's called New Year, New Me, but the whole idea is that we are always trying to change ourselves. We are always trying to adapt. We don't like the type of person that we are, and we're trying to change it, when in reality, we should accept who we are, and we should just try to lessen the imperfections and focus more on the positive things about ourselves. And I think that's a really good message, but it never felt as focused as it really could have been. It definitely was there, and they were pushing it at first, but after a certain point, it just really felt like this entire thing went off the rails for me, and it just really did not work here, unfortunately. The cinematography, I will say, is great here. There are so many fantastic shots, and very early on, there's this one tracking shot that I loved. I loved the way it was done. It sets up the setting perfectly. This is one of those films where it really just takes place in this one setting pretty much the whole time, and it really does get you introduced to it quite well, and I think they did a really good job with that. Also, there's some really great shots in this film that I just really enjoyed. Something as simple as just seeing Alexis just chop food and things like that. She's chopping food, or she's looking around for something in her kitchen. It just makes you feel eerie and uncomfortable, and they did a really great job displaying that with the cinematography. The score here as well, this is easily my favorite score out of any of the Into the Dark installments. I mean, I think it's a great score. It's a great throwback to, like, classic horror. I really love this score a lot. I thought it was eerie. I thought it was very unnerving, and it just perfectly set the tone for what they were trying to do, and I really did enjoy the score here. The editing as well, like I said, the film, it's basically the same length of any of the others, and I don't think the pacing is really the issue here. It's just where they end up going with it. It really did not work for me. Also, I will say, there is one shot towards the end of this movie that is absolutely awful. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if they got a different cinematographer, but the CGI that they used in this one shot, it was atrocious. I could not believe how terrible it really was. Overall, I was just very let down by New Year, New Me. And again, maybe it's because Puka just set such a standard for what this could have been, that's why this one did let me down. Anything following up Puka probably would have been a letdown, but I just thought there could have been so much more they could have done here. It felt like they were trying to be more untraditional with its approach, where it set up and it was trying to be this thing where these girls started to turn against each other, but the way it ended, it just got too traditional for me, and I think overall it was a big missed opportunity to delve into this message that I just felt could have been a lot more front and center. And again, that conflict that the girls have, the reason why they've gone their separate ways, and the reason they've been against each other, it just really does not work. It does not work with this kind of story, and it just really did fall flat for me. So overall, while I definitely did enjoy aspects of this, like I said, the girls' chemistry is very good. The first 30 to 40 minutes are fantastic. I really enjoyed the first, like, 30 to 40-ish minutes a lot. It's just once we eventually get into the central conflict, that's really when this went downhill for me. So unfortunately, while there were definitely things to like about it, I am overall going to give this installment of Into the Dark, New Year, New Me, overall a C. But overall, guys, in my review of this installment of Into the Dark, let me know what you guys thought of this overall, left your thoughts in it. I do still want you guys to check this out, because again, it's a show that is really different, and I love that Hulu is, doing something like this where it's, one different sort of story a month. I am excited to see what they do for February's installment, but this one just did not work as well for me. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.